At the 58th session of the Human Rights Council in Geneva, Cuba and Bolivia denounced the maximum pressure policies of the United States and the genocide in Gaza. President of Venezuela Nicolás Maduro condemned the media campaign that seeks to criminalize Venezuelan migrants. A senior Hamas official accused the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of intentionally sabotaging the Gaza ceasefire agreement. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. At the 58th session of the Human Rights Council in Geneva, Cuba and Bolivia have raised their voices to denounce the maximum pressure policies of the United States and the genocide in Gaza. Cuba rejected the West's attempts to instrumentalize the Council, while Bolivia condemned the situation of migrants and held Washington responsible for the genocide in Gaza. The Cuban foreign minister denounced the growing Western imperialism, considering the U.S. policy of maximum pressure as a violation of human rights, although he reaffirmed Cuba's firm resistance. For his part, the Bolivian President Luis Arce denounced the Zionist war crime in Gaza. Arce also expressed concern about the migratory situation, rejecting the massive deportations of Latin Americans and the attempts to criminalize migration. An Iranian foreign minister, Saeed Abbas Araghchi, reaffirmed Iran's solidarity and support for Cuba in the face of the unilateral sanctions imposed by the United States. During a meeting with Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez in Geneva, Araghchi called the economic sanctions against Cuba a serious violation of the principles of the UN Charter, international law, and human rights of the Cuban people. Araghchi underlined Iran's support for UN General Assembly resolutions condemning the economic blockade, stressing the importance of strengthening cooperation between the two countries in international organizations to protect common interests. The two ministers also discussed developments in West Asia and violations of the human rights of the Palestinian people. And during his program Con Maduro Más, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, condemned the media campaign that seeks to criminalize Venezuelan migrants regarding the arrival of 242 nationals through the planned return to the homeland. The president recalled that the Venezuelan migration was a result of the offensive campaign of criminal sanctions imposed by the United States. In this regard, President Maduro highlighted the work of the government in defense of the country's sovereignty by dismantling criminal groups operating under the orders of former Colombian presidents Iván Duque and Álvaro Uribe, in complicity with the Venezuelan far right.
That was a design they made in the United States. Together with these bandits, they made supporting the Aragua train. We knew in time and launched those offensives. Remember the deliberation of plans of all the jails beginning with Tocaron and the offensive against all the successful criminal bands we had. Because they came with that game, and with a game that was to use the criminal bands in the jails to attack several cities in the country, to make them chaotic and to say that there was chaos in Venezuela and to ask for intervention. Everywhere you see it, it's something devilish and dirty. They stigmatize the name of Venezuela. The name of the Venezuelan migrant, they stigmatized it. They're the fascist rats.
In Colombia, an explosive attack in the municipality of Morales, Department of Cauca, left at least 17 people injured, according to different sources, including 2 policemen and several minors. The explosion occurred near a police station and an educational institution, just as students were leaving classes. It is suspected that the explosive device could have been a motorcycle bomb. Authorities are investigating the incident and have deployed additional security measures in the area to prevent further attacks. The municipality of Morales has been the scene of similar attacks in the past, including one in May 2024 that left 4 dead. The region is dominated by dissident groups that rejected the 2016 peace agreement, which has generated a situation of persistent violence.
I enter the store and I want to sit down for lunch. The motorcycle bomb exploded and caused an impact. The store was damaged and several things were blown up. And then it hit me here and there.
They took me to the hospital because I became deaf and could not see well. So I had to go to the hospital. There they applied some treatments for the pain, and for now I am fine.
Let's now take our first short break. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back. In Bolivia, the government started up a steel plant that will produce 200,000 tons of iron-derived construction materials per year and require an investment of over $500 million. Correspondent Freddy Morales with the details.
The plant is located in Puerto Suarez, near the Brazilian border, and will use iron from El Cerro Mutin, one of the world's iron ore reserves.
The truth is that it is a great satisfaction for me, today as municipal mayor of Puerto Suarez, to witness and represent those generations that have fought tirelessly for more than 80 years to see this dream come true.
The steel complex will produce 200,000 tons of steel per year in a first phase, which means half of these materials that the country has been importing until now.
Now that we are going to put this complex into operation and we are going to start producing steel, we will generate more than 700 direct jobs and more than 2,000 indirect jobs. This is what the steel complex represents in social terms.
President Luis Arce recalled that the financing of the complex used state resources and a loan from the government of China.
This is an investment of $546 million where there are three actors involved to finance. First, the financing of the Chinese government, whom we thank infinitely, as well as the brother ambassador of that country, through him. A big hug to brother Xi Jinping. Second, the resources of the central bank with a credit. And finally, to complete all this, the general treasury of the nation that is being invested, along with resources that are here to invest and fulfill the dream of so many Bolivians.
The complex will produce rebar and wire rod in its first phase.
This is a clear demonstration that the Bolivian state has to be and is the fundamental actor to advance towards the industrialization of our country. Industrialization is not just a story, it is a reality. We are showing the whole country that it is possible to industrialize the country, that this depends on the political decision of a government determined to build a solid and diversified economy in our country.
The Mutin iron ore deposit is one of the largest reserves of this mineral, with 40,000 million tons. Its production of 200,000 tons per year means that the state will save some $250 million in foreign currency that it used to spend on this import.
Freddy Morales, teleSUR, Bolivia.
In Paraguay, nearly 1.5 million students have returned to the classroom. Student organizations are demanding supplies and social support mechanisms, while experts warn about the low quality of the educational system. More in the following report with Osvaldo Sayas.
The educational year began in Paraguay with complaints about the lack of school supplies in public schools and colleges, according to high school students who are members of the National Union of Student Centers.
The school kits are something we have been demanding for years, and they have not been delivered. This year was the one in which we had the worst complaints because it is the first day of school and the school kits were not delivered in any institution. The institutions in which they were delivered are in the interior of the country, and they denounced that not all of them arrived. Most of the kits that arrived did not have all the materials we need.
Las carencias en infraestructura para escuelas.
Lack of infrastructure for schools and colleges is solved with self-management by parents and teachers, as in the case of the historic College República Argentina, located in the center of Asunción.
Well, in general, we receive things according to the classrooms and the furniture we have. But we always need some adjustments, of course, the electrical part, the plumbing part, which we will be adjusting according to our needs, and with the help of parents and teachers as well.
Luego de años de lucha, el movimiento secundario.
After years of struggle, the student movement won the student ticket through a law in 2006. This law has not been enforced for 3 years, and the students demand that the government stop trampling on their rights.
This is the third year that we will be without a student ticket. Since 2022, the Ministry of Education and Science has been avoiding the responsibility of providing the student ticket, thanks to the change in the payment system, which is now with a card. Before it was in cash. In any case, there is a law, there is a half-fair law, and the Ministry of Education has to guarantee that.
El informe del programa para la evaluación
The
internacional.
report of the Program for International Student Assessment states that in Paraguay, 7 out of 10 students do not understand what they read. Education specialist Ramon Corvalent explained the historical problems of the Ministry of Education.
En el tiempo siempre ha sido afectado por dos cuestiones. Uno, la injerencia
We have
política.
always been affected by two issues. One is political partisan interference, particularly from the Colorado Party. The other is the conservative religious interference. The intersection of these two has not been able to be untangled in history. This has continued in today what we see as a ministry captured by these two logics.
Ministerio capturado por esas dos lógicas, digamos.
El informe PISA ubica a Paraguay como uno de los
The Program
países.
for International Student Assessment report places Paraguay as one of the countries with the worst education systems in the world, where 9 out of 10 students are not able to solve basic math problems, a reality that is an obstacle for development, according to students and teachers.
Osvaldo Sayas, TeleSUR, Asunción, Paraguay.
And Habanos, the company in charge of marketing Cuban cigars worldwide, has announced record sales in 2024, reaching $827 million. This achievement represents a 16% growth over the previous year. Jose Maria Lopez, the company's vice president of development, highlighted that this increase is due to the strength of the brands and the product diversification strategy, launching 33 new products in 2024. The International Habano Festival, held in Havana, was the setting for this announcement. The Asia-Pacific region, especially China, remains a key driver of sales, accounting for 24% of the total. Despite the U.S. blockade, Cuba maintains a strong presence in markets such as Spain, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, and Germany.
El Grupo Habanos en 2024 ha anunciado una cifra
In
de
2024, the Habanos SA Group achieved sales of $827 million, up 16% on 2023 at a constant exchange rate. We at Habanos are extremely pleased with these results. This double-digit growth is much higher than that of a global luxury goods industry that reported stable sales in 2024 compared to 2023.
en el 2024 respecto al 2023. Sin duda la región de Asia-Pacífico que hoy en día
The Chinese market, and more generally, the Asia-Pacific region, lead by the Chinese market, which includes mainland China, Hong Kong and Macau, and accounts for 24% of the Habanos Group's sales by value, continue to drive growth. It's Habanos' top market worldwide in terms of value and the world's second largest tobacco consumption market in terms of volume.
mundo en consumo de tabaco.
More than half of Ecuador's workers are in the formal sector, the National Institute of Statistics and Censuses announced on Monday. A survey for January 2025 shows that the figure has increased by 1.4% compared to last January and is the highest recorded in the country since 2007. According to the data, only 34% of the country's workforce is formally employed. This huge increase, which puts informal employment at 56%, means that these workers lack work guarantees, security, holidays, and social security, among other important conquests of the workers' struggle. We now have a second short break coming up before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Found your break, don't go away. Welcome back. A senior Hamas official has accused Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of intentionally sabotaging the Gaza ceasefire agreement. This accusation comes as the agreement is in danger of not being extended, with its first phase about to conclude without a clear agreement for the next stage. The agreement, which came into force on January 19, 2025, includes hostage and prisoner exchanges, as well as a partial withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza and the delivery of humanitarian aid. However, Hamas has complained that Israel has not fulfilled its commitments, such as allowing the passage of humanitarian aid and withdrawing its forces from certain areas. Netanyahu has demanded the release of the remaining hostages, threatening to resume hostilities if his demands are not met. And in Palestine, 12,800 Palestinian students have been killed as a result of Israeli attacks, according to Ismail Afwabta, the head of the government media office in Gaza. In addition, 785,000 students have been excluded from education due to the destruction of 137 schools and universities. Al-Wabta also reported that 760 teachers, as well as 150 scientists, scholars, professors, and researchers have been killed. This data highlights the devastating impact of the conflict on the education sector in Gaza, with long-term consequences for the development and future of the Palestinian population. The UN has warned about the recurrence of attacks on schools in Gaza. And more than 160 doctors and medical personnel from Gaza are currently being held in Israeli prisons, undergoing severe mistreatment and torture. Human rights organizations such as Human Rights Watch and Physicians for Human Rights Israel have denounced the arbitrary arrests and inhumane treatment of the detainees. Among the prisoners is the director of the Kamal Adwan Hospital, Hussam Abu Safia, who was arrested during a military operation in December. The detention of these professionals has significantly weakened the health system in Gaza, which was already under enormous pressure due to the recent conflicts. These actions have been described as violations of international humanitarian law, which protects health workers in armed conflicts. And the Russian head of state, Vladimir Putin, stressed that the country must adapt to the development of the rare earth elements in order to compete successfully on world markets and in turn create a solid foundation for the long-term development of the economy.
Of course, we have to adapt to these dynamics in order to compete successfully on world markets and create a solid basis for the long-term and confident development of the Russian economy. In order to increase the potential of the domestic industry in the field of new materials, a national technology leadership project has been launched this year. It is called New Materials in Chemistry. In particular, within the framework of the national project, the whole range and the complete cycle of the rare metals and rare earth elements industry will be established, their extraction and processing will be ensured, even the production of high-tech finished products with high added value. The production of such products, as a result of the national project, should multiply.
The Russian president stressed that the Kiev regime refused to have contact with his government and emphasized that the meeting in Riyadh between the United States and his country was aimed at increasing the level of trust between the two nations.
They themselves refused to contact us. I saw the reaction to our telephone conversation with the President of the United States. I saw the reaction to the high-level meeting in Riyadh. It's really emotional and lacks any practical meaning. Why? Because in order to resolve complex and even acute issues, including the one related to Ukraine, both Russia and the United States must take the first step. What does it consist of? This first step should be dedicated to increasing the level of trust between the two states. This is exactly what we did in Riyadh. This is what the next and possibly other high-level contacts will be dedicated to. Without this, it is impossible to resolve any issue, including such a complex and acute one as the Ukrainian crisis.
Dmitry Peskov, spokesperson for Russian President Vladimir Putin, commented Tuesday morning on the U.S. vote at the UN, describing it as a more balanced position. However, the Kremlin did not state that bilateral relations with the White House were fully restored. The spokesperson assured that after the tensions raised by the Biden administration, there is a serious and long road ahead to go. The diplomat referred to the need for taking measures to restore and develop mutual trust. Peskov further acknowledged efforts to settle the conflict with Ukraine. Likewise, the authorities stressed the importance of time to consolidate the ties damaged in the last 4 years. And the Vatican issued the first update on Pope Francis' health on Tuesday, reporting that he had a good night's rest as the Catholic faithful chained prayers for his speedy recovery. The Supreme Pontiff has been in hospital in Rome for almost 2 weeks. In the last 2 days, although his condition is complex, he has shown a slight improvement, and the doctors and the Holy See press office say that he is not out of danger. The Catholic faithful of the world, coordinated by the churches or spontaneously, have united in prayers and petitions for the health of Pope Francis. On the last day, the presidents of Cuba, the United States, and Venezuela once again wished him a speedy recovery. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.